The story kicks off in a world known as Telha-Rathnaj, a place with a crimson-red sky and vast rocky mountains that make it look like Mars on a bad day. We cut to our MC, who is currently being attacked by a monster. Naturally, he's shocked and confused, wondering where on Earth, or rather, where off Earth he is, and what's up with this dog-like monster. Before he even has time to process what's happening, the beast lunges at him again. In a panic, our hero grabs a nearby rock and smashes it into the creature's face. He doesn't know what's going on, but one thing is clear: if he doesn't kill this monster dog, it's going to turn him into a chew toy. Just as our MC is grappling with the dog, a mysterious guideline pops up, giving him the lowdown on this creature. Turns out it's a level 1 hell dog, the lowest level monster in Telha-Rathnaj. The guideline then drops a bombshell that our hero can level up by defeating powerful monsters. Confused and now even more certain he's stuck in some twisted fantasy game, he wonders when exactly his life took such a bizarre turn. Cut to the flashback to Earth, where our MC, Ryu Han-bin, lazily wakes up at noon. We learn he's been enjoying his life post-military service, which ended 3 months ago. Just as Ryu is mindlessly eating and scrolling through his computer, a thick black smoke engulfs him, and poof, he disappears from his chair. When Ryu Han-bin opens his eyes, he wonders if he's dead, only to be greeted by a mysterious voice. "Is this all there is?" it asks. Apparently this voice expected more than 7 billion candidates, and Ryu can't help but think, who is this? Is it God? The voice goes on about how they were the chosen ones, leaving Ryu thoroughly confused. Before he can ask for an explanation, the voice transmits the guidelines to all the players, and Ryu is suddenly hit with a surge of energy. The voice sheepishly admits, "Oops, I made a mistake mentioning an error with the guideline," but casually dismisses it as it was only one person. Back in the world of Telha-Rathnaj, Ryu Han-bin is now one of the chosen ones. We see him crushing the hell dog's head with a rock, but his thoughts are far from victorious. He's grieving about his life, his parents, and what's going to happen to him. In a particularly tragic moment, Ryu cries out that he hasn't even dated a girl yet. Suddenly, a guideline appears, coldly informing him that he has less than a 5% chance of surviving with his current capabilities. As if that wasn't bad enough, another guideline pops up, asking if he would like to end his own life. Talk about a rough day. Ryu, still holding on to hope, asks, "If I die, will you send me back home?" But then he calms down and thinks it through. They wouldn't have kidnapped him just to send him back if he died, right? With renewed determination, Ryu stands up, ready to survive and find a way out of this mess. Out of nowhere, another guideline appears, congratulating him on discovering his will and fighting spirit, and now he can choose a class. Ryu glances at the warrior class and grumbles, "That's only fun in games, not in real life." He decides long-distance combat is the way to go and selects the magician class. But of course the guideline rejects him, saying he has no capability for that class. Undeterred, Ryu tries the magic swordsman class, but the guideline shuts him down again. Next, he tries the priest class. Surely this one will work. Nope, another rejection. With no options left, a disheartened Ryu reluctantly selects the warrior class, muttering, "This isn't even a choice." The guideline then instructs him to choose a beginner weapon. Ryu insists on a long-distance weapon, so he picks the long spear, only to be handed a long sword instead. Clearly, the guideline has a sense of humor, or maybe it's just that error the mysterious voice mentioned earlier. Ryu, now at the end of his rope, clutches his hair in disbelief. The guideline is the only useful thing here, he says. But Ryu calms down, picks up the sword, and decides at least it's better than a rock. With that, he makes up his mind to fight and survive, and so begins Ryu Han-bin's unending and hellish life of leveling up. It's been 7 days since Ryu Han-bin arrived in this world. He's been pestering the guidelines non-stop, asking how to get back home, but every time they remain as silent as a library after hours. Ryu wonders if this is due to some glitch in the system. Meanwhile, we find our hero engaged in an epic battle with a green hell dog. With a smirk, Ryu mutters that the creature he's always fighting is indeed the hell dog. But if there's one thing he's learned, it's that even hell dogs level up. Ryu soon realizes that this hell dog might actually have a few brain cells to rub together. After Ryu swings his sword, the beast seizes the opportunity, rushing in to attack. It's clear that the hell dog is adapting to fighting Ryu just as much as he is adapting to fighting these monsters. Ryu, with a daring leap, attacks the monster from above, but to his dismay, the hell dog dodges and seems to mock him with a laugh. Ryu starts questioning his talent or lack thereof with the sword. Just then, the hell dog pounces again, but this time Ryu uses his skill called stab to kill the beast. Ryu explains that he gained this skill upon reaching level 2, and although he hasn't mastered the art of swordplay, the stab skill is something he can execute flawlessly thanks to the guidelines functions. Another nifty function? The guidelines can tell him useful information, like how the hell dog's meat and blood can be consumed as food and water, making it the perfect survival kit. However, the hell dog's bones and hide quickly dull, making them useless. After a while, Ryu concludes that this world is definitely artificial. He starts to think there must be a reason he's been brought here after all. It wouldn't make sense to keep him stuck here for no reason. He recalls the mysterious voice mentioning 7 billion candidates and wonders where the others might be. Suddenly, another guideline appears telling Ryu that he can leave the current area, known as Rock Mountain, once he reaches level 5 and meets up with the other chosen ones. The guideline goes on to explain that Rock Mountain is the beginner zone where stats match monster appearances. Realizing he must reach level 5 to meet others, Ryu embarks on a hell dog hunting spree. But as he gets stronger, so do the hell dogs, making each battle a grueling challenge. After slaying several hell dogs, Ryu levels up, gaining a new skill called Side Slash. After many hard days of grinding, on the 27th day, Ryu receives a notification from the guideline that he's met the experience required to level up. He's also acquired 3 skills called Stab, Side Slash, and Vertical Slash. Not only that, but Ryu starts noticing the effects of his stats on his body. Even the two-handed longsword that was once a struggle to lift now swings with ease, and he has also put on muscles. Then joy turns to despair as Ryu sees his level plummet from 4 to 1 again. Desperately, he tries to convince himself it's just a bug. But when he checks his status window, to his horror, he's indeed back to level 1. Ryu tries to stay optimistic, noticing that his stats haven't decreased and he still retains his skills. He thinks to himself that, since this is the beginner zone, the hell dogs should also be back to level 1, making it easier to gain stats again. However, he's sorely mistaken. The hell dogs keep getting stronger, despite their level. Ryu continues to risk his life in each fight, telling himself it'll work this time, he'll surely get it now. But he's stuck in an endless loop, leveling from 1 to 4 and back to 1 again. For the past 7 years, Ryu has been trapped in this hellish cycle, killing countless hell dogs and tossing their corpses into a pit. Running through the levels 1 to 4 repeatedly, Ryu discovers that the chosen ones don't age, and due to their incredible recovery ability, all injuries heal within a day. Despite this, Ryu couldn't learn any new skills because he couldn't surpass level 4. As we see Ryu preparing to fight yet another undead monster crawling out of the pit, we also see him slowly losing his mind. The scene then cuts to a mysterious figure, the same one with the mysterious voice Ryu heard. This figure says that the guideline transmission to the chosen ones is complete and the 5th operation is commencing. The figure casually remarks that he's gotten used to this, as it's the 5th time, and he hopes there are some useful players this time around. But then something catches the figure's attention. He picks up a picture of Ryu and notices that he's still logged into the Venla Rathna area. We cut back to Ryu, who's peacefully sleeping in his bed. He wonders if he's back home, thinking it makes sense since he just got discharged. Suddenly he hears a notification sound from the guideline, asking if he would like to end his own life. Just as Ryu is about to press it, he wakes up from his dream and realizes he's fallen into the pit. With a grim smile, he remarks that even falling from a cliff doesn't kill him now. Checking his level again, he sees that he's back to level 1. Ryu contemplates quitting, but then snaps out of it and tells himself, if I'm going to die, wouldn't it be better to make it worth it with renewed determination? He picks up his sword and charges back into battle. After being stuck in this hell for 10 years, Ryu gives up counting the days. He wonders how long he's actually been stuck here. 15 years? 17 years? Who knows? And Ryu, as he leaps in the air, wonders what his actual level might be. And we see Ryu, after more than a decade, has become huge and super ripped. In the end, Ryu develops a hobby of carving and even comes up with work to do. Surviving alone is no easy task, but the harsh environment forces Ryu to accept this as his reality. He decides that if he can't change his situation, he might as well devote himself to it. With that, he starts building a house, living day by day with such dedication that he no longer rages. But suddenly a huge monster appears, crushing his home with a single strike and attacking Ryu. Enraged, Ryu, with a murderous aura, declares that although the house was small, it took him 3 years to build it. He then swears that maybe this time he'll build a palace with the monster's bones. Ryu notes that hell dogs have now become enormous and don't even taste good anymore. One hell dog flies into the sky and charges up a massive attack called Dragon's Breath. Ryu, having fought these monsters countless times, has developed a strategy. Knowing it's impossible to dodge the hell dog's breath attack due to its large area of effect, he braces himself and blocks it with sheer strength. The hell dog, surprised that its enemy is unfazed, quickly casts Thunderbolt, light and fire magic. Though painful, Ryu blocks the attacks by carving up a massive wall of earth. Then Ryu charges toward the hell dog and attacks it, but he's still not skilled with the sword. It's clear Ryu has no natural talent for swordsmanship, but after using the same skills countless times, Ryu has combined stab, vertical slash, and horizontal slash into one move called cross impact. It's not an official skill, but no monster has ever stood after being hit by it. Ryu declares that he has survived another day. We cut back to the mysterious figure, who's currently holding Ryu's picture. The figure mutters to himself, "Isn't this the kid that got bugged that time? Why is he still here?" He then realizes that we're in the 5th generation, and Ryu is from the 3rd generation. The figure panics, realizing it's been 22 years since Ryu has been stuck in the tutorial. The figure frets, knowing he won't be able to come up with an excuse if that person finds out. Worse yet, he can't kill Ryu either. What should I do? The figure wonders aloud. Checking Ryu's status window, the figure is baffled to see that Ryu is still only level 4 with poor stats and skills. After seeing Ryu's pitifully low stats, the mysterious figure smirks deviously and mutters, "This could work. There's still a way for me to deal with him," and we cut back to Ryu, who's nonchalantly checking his stats while munching on the monster he just hunted. As he gazes at his real stats, Ryu wonders aloud just how strong he is now. Amid his musings, he suddenly craves something tasty and thinks about meeting other people, wondering how much longer he has to live like this. But before he can delve too deep into self-reflection, a loud thunderclap roars across the sky. We see the mysterious figure opening a massive portal above, grinning wickedly as he says, "All I have to do is erase his record. He won't survive in Rathna continent as a mere level 4. And a beam of light descends, sucking Ryu up into the sky, and we see him being transported somewhere. We cut back to Ryu Hanbin, but something's of, there is no crimson red sky where the sun never rises nor sets, no barren dusty ground of the rock mountain. Where on earth is Ryu? He jumps into the air, eyes wide in disbelief as he sees a clear blue sky and lush green forests. Overcome with joy, Ryu screams in exhilaration, finally free from that rocky hell. He leaps into a nearby pond, splashing around in sheer happiness. The guideline pops up, revealing that Ryu is now in the Rathna continent. Amused but relieved, Ryu remarks that while it's not home, it's definitely better than that hellhole he was stuck in for decades. Suddenly a guideline update pops up informing Ryu is now level 5 and has gained a communication skill called language translation. But wait, doesn't he need to be level 20 to reach Rathna continent? Why was he transported here? Before he can ponder further, a new guideline appears showing him the final mission to kill one of the 6 goddesses of Rathna. Ryu's eyes widen even more when he sees the reward is eternal youth, immortality, and a ticket back to Earth. Plus 3 wishes granted. Another guideline lists the mission's conditions: keep his otherworldly identity a secret and register at the Hunters Guild in Onpra City. As Ryu reads, he's interrupted by a monstrous roar. Looking up, he's shocked to see a level 27 dragon, and says, "Why the hell is the first monster I meet a dragon?" The dragon, furious, accuses Ryu of being a disgusting otherworldly demon who dared enter its forest. Ryu prepares to attack but realizes his sword is missing. It fell into the pond when he jumped in earlier. With no time to retrieve it, Ryu leaps with bare hands, dodging the dragon's breath attack. He thinks, in situations like this, it's better to shake the enemy first and then kill it. Ryu punches the dragon, planning to grab his sword afterward, but to his astonishment, the dragon goes flying with just one punch. Ryu is utterly flabbergasted. We then see a short story. There once lived a brilliant dragon, Ifer, in the skies above the dragon knights of the X-Rad kingdom. Ifer was the pride of the knights, but a great ordeal befell her. The kingdom's prince, spoiled and reckless, demanded to ride her. But mounting a dragon was no simple feat, and in the end the prince met his sudden death. Ifer's poor knight was executed, and Ifer herself barely escaped the kingdom with the help of other kind knights. Now, the lonely dragon lives in the forest, with no time to mourn, as otherworldly humans frequently invade her territory. Despite her training, Ifer never kills her opponents. But was this kind Ifer truly a source of terrible disaster? Eventually, countless otherworldly hunters gathered to hunt the poor dragon. Badly beaten, Ifer thought to herself that sparing the lives of these otherworldly humans was a mistake. We cut back to Ryu, who is now with Ifer, who is crying, explaining that she had no choice. She reveals she's a wyvern, not a dragon, and explains that dragons have 4 legs and wings on their shoulders, while wyverns have wings on their forelegs. Through her tears, she begs Ryu to let her go. Curious, Ryu asks how she knew he was from another world. Ifer replies that she can't tell just by looking, but their bodies disappear when they die. Besides, the locals rarely venture into this forest. Ryu concludes, so that means no one can discover my identity just by looking at me. Ryu then asks, isn't this the Saith the forest in the Greylit Kingdom? Ifer responds that the Greylit Kingdom was destroyed years ago, and now it's called X-Rad Kingdom. Realizing his guideline hasn't been updated, Ryu demands, then why did you attack me? You should have just laid low. Ifer, still bawling, replies, because you're an otherworldly demon. Furious, Ryu points his sword at her and shouts, who's a demon? Ifer, trembling, says no, it wasn't me. The goddess said. Ryu interrupts, goddess? Tell me everything. Ifer explains that otherworldly humans started appearing in Rathna 40 years ago. Initially they got along with the Rathians, but it didn't last. The otherworldly humans began killing Rathians to increase their levels. The more powerful ones banded together and formed Great Ursula, a group with the goal of killing the goddess. Otherworldly humans are strong like dragons. They can easily level up by killing their opponents. There was no way to fight against them when they were led by a level 100 leader. So before they arrived, the continent's 4 great heroes, Barolt the Sword King, Zenobia the Archmage, Garhan the Terrible, and Holian the Transcendentalist of Life and Death, massacred the otherworldly humans in an instant. Afterward, the 6 goddesses blessed the continent and declared that earthlings are otherworldly demons who have made pacts with the wicked demon god, which is why they are quickly executed. Ryu furiously stands up and exclaims, I was kidnapped out of the blue and rotted on a rock mountain for decades, and now that I'm finally free, you're telling me that if anyone finds out I'm an otherworldly being, the whole continent will become my enemy. Ryu, looking like a madman, says, so the goddesses are scary enough to do this? I don't give a rat's ass about making a deal with a goddess or becoming their underling, but I'll kill that demon god who sent me to that hell and get back home alive. But Ryu pauses, realizing that Ifer knows his identity, and says, I can't let anyone know my true identity. Ifer, crying and scared, thinks I knew it. This man is also a demon. She begs, please, I swear I won't tell anybody. I'll live as a normal wyvern and pretend I don't know how to speak. So please spare me. We cut to 5 days later. We see a huge castle wall stretching across the horizon. It is a city in the northern part of the X-Rad Kingdom, called Empress City. The city is vast and densely populated. Nearby is the Saith Forest and a dungeon in the Ifan Plains where countless monsters continuously appear. Many hunters risk their lives to get rich quick. The streets are bustling with people, and we finally see the Empress Hunters Guild. The people who come here are either hunters, aspiring hunters, or otherworldly beings. Ryu enters the guild, his huge sword on his back, and people are awestruck by his massive build and presence, wondering if he's from another guild. As Ryu approaches the receptionist, she greets him warmly, noting that she doesn't recognize him and asks if it's his first time in the Empress Hunter Guild, offering her assistance. We flash back to Ryu, who desperately pleads with Efri for help. He confides that, while his appearance may not be too suspicious, the lack of local clothing and equipment would expose his identity as an otherworlder. Efri, initially hesitant and suspicious, contemplates the possibility that Ryu might kill her after receiving her aid. However, Ryu reassures her with a soft smile, mentioning that it's been ages since he had a decent conversation with anyone. Touched by his sincerity, Efri is reminded of the kind knights who once accompanied her. Reluctantly, she agrees to help but warns Ryu to keep her involvement a secret, as she too is a wanted individual. Ryu nods in agreement, thanking her earnestly. Efri instructs Ryu to change into more appropriate clothing first. As he begins to undress, Efri panics, turning red with embarrassment, and says, "What are you doing with Ryu now dressed?" Efri humorously advises him about common sense in this world, starting with not stripping in public. Ryu, slightly amused, responds that he already knows that much and then asks about how can he meet the goddess. Efri explains that goddesses rarely meet with people, even among Rathnians. To meet a goddess, you either need to be one of the 4 heroes or have accomplished a great service worthy of their blessing, she says. She further adds that the most assured way to earn such a blessing is by becoming a hunter who battles dungeon monsters that were created by the demon god Ormflos. Ryu recalls that the guideline mentioned he would need to become a hunter to contact the goddesses. Curious, Efri asks, guideline. What guideline? Ryu points to the mysterious guideline, but Efri looks confused. There's nothing there, she says. Ryu wonders, am I the only one who can see this? He explains that the guideline is supposed to be a guidance system for otherworldly humans like him, but his seems to be broken, leaving him in the dark about many things. Back in the present, thanks to Efri's help, we see Ryu confidently lying about his identity, introducing himself as Eric from North Campbell. The receptionist at the guild asks if he wishes to transfer, but Ryu, maintaining his false identity, declines and declares his intention to become a hunter. His words cause the entire guild to panic, with everyone reaching for their weapons. The receptionist, sweating and trembling, asks, "You're telling me you aren't one already?" The guild members murmur amongst themselves, questioning whether this giant could be another worlder. Ryu, observing the tense situation, internally wonders what's wrong with everyone. Did I make a mistake? The receptionist, still nervous, asks Ryu to place his hand on the measuring stone to verify his level as per guild rules. Ryu contemplates the situation, thinking, do I have to fight? But he quickly reassures himself, no, the fact that they haven't attacked yet means they're not certain I'm an otherworlder. He also considers whether the measuring stone might reveal his true origin. If I get caught here, meeting the goddesses will be impossible. But running away now would be as good as admitting I'm not from this world. Destroying this place would be easy. But let's see what happens. With that, Ryu places his hand on the measuring stone, bracing himself for the outcome. To everyone's shock, the stone reveals that all his stats are at heroic levels. Ryu, mentally patting himself on the back, thinks, phew, that was close. I almost got caught. Now, let's go slay Ormflos, the evil god, but reality quickly snaps back, and due to the guideline's error, the stone shows his level as a mere 5. The guild bursts into laughter, having initially mistaken him for an otherworlder. The receptionist, still chuckling, apologizes and explains that most people from remote areas who register as hunters are indeed otherworlders. If Eric had a higher level, they might have mistaken him too. Ryu, relieved but slightly annoyed, thinks, never thought I'd be happy to have a low level. The receptionist then informs Ryu that the registration fee is 300x, a sum that almost makes Ryu lose his composure. 300x is equal to $3,000, he thinks, nearly fainting. Reluctantly, he pays the fee, crying internally as the guild members continue to chuckle at his expense. The receptionist hands him a badge and advises him to return for a new one once he levels up. Ryu, realizing he's starting from the bottom, resolves to make a name for himself in the hunter's circle. He asks about exploring dungeons, only to be interrupted by a voice from the back. Better stay put if you don't want to end up as monster food, says a man, who warns that a level 5 like Ryu should know his place. Annoyed, Ryu listens as the receptionist addresses the man as Mr. Lord asking if he and his party are planning to head to Saith Forest. Lord, with an air of arrogance, responds that he's heard about the increasing number of dungeon monsters attacking nearby homes. Not trusting weaker hunters to handle the job, he declares that he must go himself since his level is high. Ryu, curious, checks Lord's level and discovers it's only 24. What's he acting so conceited for? He's barely stronger than every Ryu, then scans the other guild members' levels, which hover around 12 and 13. Though, I guess he's stronger than the rest. But still, I'd rather not get involved with him. He's annoying. Suddenly, the receptionist, seemingly struck by an idea, suggests to Lord that Ryu might join his party, as they have room for one more. Lord, in a taunting tone, considers the suggestion. What should I do? I already have a newbie in my group, he muses, as a red-haired mage introduces herself as Atisi, a level 25 mage. But Ryu, noticing her actual level is 37, wonders why she's lying and figures she must have her reasons. Lord, a clear simp for women, immediately agrees, saying that if it's a special request from Miss Sagiri the receptionist, the pride of Empress Hunters Guild, to take care of this level 5 insect referring to Ryu, then he shall do it. Ryu, feeling annoyed by the insult, thinks I could crush this guy, but it's better not to cause a scene. Lord, acting all high and mighty, grabs Ryu's sword and mocks him, questioning if he's dreaming of becoming the Sword King. But as he tries to lift the sword, he realizes it's incredibly heavy and can't move it. Lord, puzzled, thinks, how is he carrying this around? Ryu, filled with anger, tells him to let go, effortlessly lifting the sword into the air, along with Lord still hanging on. The entire guild is shocked. Suddenly, a man with a chiseled face appears and says, with a body like this, you'd be able to take care of level 10s easily, and Lord, still dangling, shouts back, be Berkman. I'm training the newbie right now, so don't butt in. Berkman, unfazed, asks Ryu, was it Eric? Fighting isn't a problem, but if you wreck the guild, you'll have to fight us all. Ryu, realizing he's accidentally damaged the ceiling, quickly assures Berkman that he doesn't want to fight anyone, thinking to himself that getting kicked out of the guild would be a disaster. Lord finally drops to the ground, humiliated, and says, you bastard. No one else would take a level 5 like you into their party but me. Did you think you could do anything with such a weak-ass level? Ryu, though annoyed, acknowledges the truth in Lord's words. He's right, I used most of my money just to register, and I can't do anything because of my low level. What do I do? Berkman, with a reassuring smile, says, don't worry. Leveling up with a body like yours will be a piece of cake. I was looking for someone like you. Would you like to join our party? I know muscles like these don't just happen overnight. The only reason your level is low is because you lack experience. Ryu checks Berkman's level, noting it's 25, and thinks this old man. He then notices Berkman's party waving at him, and recognizing their sincerity, decides to accept the offer, though he knows he won't be able to stay in their party for long. As we learn more about the world, we discover that Empress City thrives because of its dungeons and monsters. The city's economy revolves around monster hunters, and businesses create products using materials the hunters bring back. We first see Chadface Berkman, the strongest tank in Empress City, battling monsters. But oops, he makes a mistake. Just as another monster is about to pounce on him, his teammate jumps in at the right time, saving both Berkman and an old woman. Amber Bonner, the leader of Berkman's party, quickly slays the monster with teamwork. She then tells Berkman he should consider retiring since he's getting pushed back by Devolk monsters. Noticing Berkman's injured shoulder, Amber is worried and urges him to step back for treatment. Berkman, however, brushes it off, saying there's no need to worry as long as she's around. Amber blushes. We then see Erwin Roplal, a level 16 healer and Berkman's sister, persistently healing Berkman's wounds. Berkman thanks her, but suddenly a monster sneaks up behind her. Before it can attack her, Hubert, a level 18 mage, kills it with a fireball. With their combined effort, Berkman's party is recognized as the #1 team in Empress City, a well-balanced and reliable group. But what about our MC Ryu? He's the luggage boy. He's bored because nothing challenges him. Ryu grumbles about being left out of battles due to his low level, though they still split the profit equally with him. Suddenly, a level 25 boss monster, the Devolk, emerges from the woods. But before anyone can react, Ryu casually flicks a stone, which he calls Stone Bullet, and kills the boss instantly. A guideline pops up stating the monster's level was too low, granting Ryu no experience points. He's disappointed, realizing even the strongest monsters here aren't giving him any experience. The scene cuts to Chadface's party after the battle, carving up monster meat and magic stones while laughing a scene straight out of a horror movie. A girl remarks they can get 15x currency for the magic stone. Ryu thinks if he had seen this scene on Earth he would have vomited. But after decades of fighting and killing monsters in that hellhole, he's now a master at carving up monster meat. Everyone is shocked at how fast he's doing it, and Ryu casually mentions he's been doing this for 20 years. The party is astonished and asks how old Ryu is. He replies he's 24 and was kidnapped 20 years ago, not remembering what his parents look like. The party members, moved to tears, assure Ryu he's part of their family now. Ryu thanks them for letting a low level like him join their party. Chadface reassures Ryu not to worry about leveling up, saying he's been level 25 for 5 years. The party mentions that there are no high-level monsters around except in the dungeon. Ryu is shocked and panics, getting up by making an excuse saying he is going to practice his sword. We then see him blitzing through the jungle, realizing there aren't any monsters that can help him level up. He grieves on the ground until he hears a loud noise, reminiscent of a large hell dog. Instantly, Ryu climbs a tree like Tarzan and launches himself toward the sound. He's finally happy, thinking he might gain some levels, and pulls out his sword to fight, only to find a naked man standing there. The naked man turns out to be the mage from Mr. Lord's party. Ryu apologizes and tries to leave, but the mage stops him, and he calls Ryu suspicious. Ryu internally thinks whether a naked man in a forest should be calling anyone suspicious. Ryu explains he heard a loud monster noise and came to check. This statement surprises the mage, but when Ryu tries to leave again, the mage stops him with a fire wall, demanding Ryu answer truthfully if he saw the monster. The mage threatens Ryu with an attack, but Ryu blitzes in front of him, snuffing out the fire. Ryu asks why people like him and Mr. Lord look down on low-level individuals. The mage feels bad and admits he got a little emotional. Suddenly, Mr. Lord appears from behind and misunderstands the situation, thinking Ryu is harassing the mage. He yells, "You dirty level 5, showing your true colors." Meanwhile, Ryu is merely holding the mage's wrist in a misunderstanding. It seems Mr. Lord has mistaken the mage for a girl and charges up an attack. As Mr. Lord is yapping, he notices Ryu ignoring him and telling the mage to put on clothes. Feeling humiliated, Mr. Lord rushes at super speed, but Ryu, thinking he doesn't want to drag this out, bows down to apologize, leading Mr. Lord to accidentally crush his nuts on Ryu's sword handle. Later we cut to nightfall, where both parties gather in a hut. Mr. Lord lies in bed, groaning in pain, the kind only men can understand. The room falls silent. The next morning we see Mr. Otis, the mage, taking Mr. Lord back to Onpra City in a carriage. After learning Mr. Otis's gender, Mr. Lord struggles to face him again. A few days later we see Ryu and Berkman's party camping in the jungle. Someone mentions that Lord has entered a dungeon alone. Ryu wonders if it's serious, and Amber replies that entering a dungeon at Lord's level is basically suicide. She explains that even though Mr. Lord is fairly high level, the monsters in the dungeon are different, created by the evil god Omphlas. These monsters are often over level 30 or higher. Ryu thinks if the monsters in the dungeon are over level 30, he might finally be able to level up. He decides to secretly enter the dungeon. Chadface mentions that many otherworlders secretly hunt in dungeons, and Ryu, lying shamelessly, yells, "Those evil bastards." Ryu asks why Mr. Lord entered the dungeon if it's so dangerous. Chadface Berkman speculates that Mr. Lord might be searching for a healing artifact for his injury. Berkman explains that artifacts grant various abilities and that, according to rumors, one can heal any injury. Later that night, when everyone is asleep, Ryu sneaks out to explore the dungeon. Suddenly, a monster appears, scaring Ryu. It's a level 31 Treacherous, resistant to physical attacks and weak to magic. This monster somehow crawled out of the dungeon and appears to have a low level of intelligence. Despite mocking Ryu, the MC kills the monster in one blow. The stupid monster, still clueless, thinks Ryu's sword is magic and tries to flee, but Ryu chases after it like a madman, finding the portal that the monster came from. The guideline says it's a portal to the Iphon Palin dungeon. Ryu threatens the stupid monster to stand guard and make sure nothing comes in, then enters the portal. We cut to a struggling party of 2, barely staying alive while fighting the same stupid monster. The man, seeing his partner mage in danger, attacks the monster to save her, but realizes physical attacks do no damage. As the mage, injured and scared, charges a flashbang, both the teammate and the monster are blinded. The man loses hope, praying for someone to save them. Just as the monster is about to attack, someone rushes in with lightning speed, killing all the monsters in one strike. The man is shocked at the perfect timing and skill, only to see it's none other than the magic swordsman, the annoying Mr. Lord. The man, full of admiration, exclaims, "Mr. Lord." The Lord, confused, says, "Do you know me?" The man replies, "Of course. We heard you came to hunt inside the dungeon a few months ago." "You truly amazing Lord," humbly responds, "It's nothing. Really, it turns out Lord has been trying to survive in the dungeon for the past 70 days. He accidentally entered the dungeon after being too drunk, and when he woke up he was stuck inside. He doesn't remember entering the dungeon and hadn't seen another person until now, but now he's relieved to have found someone." Seeing the mage injured, Lord uses his healing potion to help, hoping they'll take him out of the dungeon, but actually he's just a simp. The man, shocked, asks why Lord used such an expensive potion. Lord replies that it's useless for his injury, his nut injury of course. The mage blushes, promising to repay the debt. Lord says that he's heading back, but the girl asks if he came all this way just to help her. In truth, Lord urgently needs to relieve himself, he's constipated. The two strangers believe he used his last potion on them, despite being in pain from an injury that can't be healed. Suddenly, the dungeon starts rumbling, the ground shaking. It might be a group of monsters approaching. Lord tells them to escape using the side path, determined not to show weakness in front of a woman. He's just showing off. The woman refuses to leave him behind, and Lord yells at the mage to hurry and run. The man carries the mage, saying, "We have to just eat a burden to Mr. Lord. I cannot afford to make that man's last effort be in vain." Lord, in deep trouble, thinks, "Why are you leaving too?" Despite the dire situation, Lord tries to reassure himself. "I've been hunting in this dungeon for a long time. I've probably leveled up by now," he thinks, trying to muster some confidence. "I should be able to handle a few Totiro." But as he braces for the encounter, his confidence shatters as hundreds of monsters suddenly appear, flooding the passageway. Terror grips him, and without a second thought, Lord starts running, his fear overtaking his pride. But then something seems off. The monsters aren't chasing him, they're fleeing. Confused, Lord wonders what could possibly terrify these beasts. On the other side of the dungeon, amidst a scene of carnage, we find our MC effortlessly slaying monsters left and right. His face shows disappointment as he murmurs, "I had high expectations since this was a dungeon, but these monsters are too weak. They're not even giving me any experience to level up." Surveying the narrow walls around him, he adds with a hint of frustration, "And I can't even swing my sword properly here, because this place might collapse if I'm not careful." And then we see in the depths of the dungeon the boss monster, a hulking creature with too much confidence for its own good, roared to its minions, "The sword magic is coming. We will fight because we are brave." Just then, with no warning whatsoever, the main character, Ryu, suddenly burst through a nearby wall, yelling, "Give me EXP!" A chunk of stone flew from the demolished wall, hurtling straight into the boss monster's head, killing it instantly. The poor beast didn't even have time to process its bad luck. Ryu, completely unaware of what he had just done, stepped into the room. His eyes were quickly drawn to a shiny object on the ground, a bracelet, seemingly infused with magic. "A fireball bracelet," Ryu muttered to himself, picking up the artifact. "Shouldn't a boss monster be guarding something crazy like this? Where's the boss anyway?" He began to ponder, his thoughts turning over slowly like a rusty gear. "If I take this, will the nearby monsters disappear? But if they don't show up, I won't be able to level up. And all that's left are those low-level Totiros. Plus, I still haven't met the dungeon boss yet. This artifact seems like mid-tier loot, but something feels off about it." As Ryu debated with himself, a guideline suddenly popped up in front of him, displaying the artifact's details. The wearer can throw fireball magic by yelling fireball. Without a second thought, Ryu slid the bracelet onto his wrist, striking a pose with a smug grin on his face. A fireball shoots from one's hand, every man's dream. He wasted no time, charging up his first attack with the enthusiasm of a kid with a new toy. "Fireball," he yelled, mimicking the epic charge up of a Kamehameha wave. But nothing happened. Ryu stared at his hand, puzzled. Is it broken, he wondered. Just then, another guideline popped up, informing him that the artifact required the user to be level 31 or above. Ryu sighed in disappointment, peeling the bracelet off his wrist like it was trash. He considered selling it, but quickly realized that showing up at a merchant with a high-level artifact might raise a few too many eyebrows. As he stood there contemplating his next move, the room suddenly started to shake. The ground rumbled, and with a loud crack, an underground stairway revealed itself. "This definitely leads to the boss room," Ryu said, a grin spreading across his face as he made his way down the stairs. Upon entering the boss chamber, Ryu quickly scanned the room. "I should be quick," he mumbled to himself, "and get back before Chad-Face Berkman wakes up." But as he ventured deeper, he realized the room was strangely empty. "Where did all the monsters go?" Ryu shouted. "I'm going to take the magic source. The dungeon will disappear if I do, and you'll all be homeless." Just as Ryu was about to grab the magic source, something slimy wrapped around his arm. He looked up and found himself face to eye with a massive, tentacled beholder, a level 45 boss monster. Ryu's eyes lit up at the sight. A level 45. This could be just the XP I need to level up. But before Ryu could make his move, Mr. Lord, a self-proclaimed hero with more bravado than brains, appeared out of nowhere, laughing maniacally. "How ridiculous. Did you think I wouldn't know? You're a monster with weak power, using an opponent's weakness and trauma against them. It's useless to try that against me." Mr. Lord, in his infinite stupidity, had convinced himself that the boss monster had taken the form of his worst enemy himself. Ryu, who had been sweating bullets thinking his secret would be found out, realized he'd just been saved by Lord's idiocy. Seizing the moment, Ryu decided to play along. "How impressive that you've seen through my disguise," he mocked, trying to sound as villainous as possible. Mr. Lord, with vengeance in his eyes, aimed a punch at what he thought was the boss monster's weak spot, but Ryu leapt into the air with a forceful kick, accidentally landing a devastating blow on the real boss monster. He landed back on the ground, muttering to himself, "Isn't the boss monster supposed to be tougher than this?" But Lord wasn't done yet. Fueled by his delusions, he unleashed a flurry of attacks on Ryu, who easily dodged them all. Meanwhile, the boss monster, still attached to Ryu by a tentacle, was being tossed around like a ragdoll, taking serious damage without Ryu even noticing. Suddenly, one of the tentacles yanked Mr. Lord away. The boss monster, now furious and desperate, took control of Lord's body, snarling, "How dare a human throw me around like a ball?" The monster tried to use Lord as a hostage, thinking it had outsmarted Ryu. "You won't attack me with your companion in the way it sneered." But Ryu, unimpressed, simply shrugged. "You can have him. Just give me the XP," prepared to strike again. The boss monster, realizing its mistake, quickly changed tactics. It transformed Mr. Lord into a mid-boss monster, launching him at Ryu with the belief that no human could harm their own ally. But Ryu, with a single, effortless swing of his sword, sliced the monster in two. The boss monster, in its final moments, stared in disbelief as its vision split in half. How could this be? I was cut in two, just by the wind pressure of his sword? He's not human. Desperate to escape, the monster tried to flee, muttering something about needing to warn someone important, but before it could finish its thought, Ryu squashed it like a bug. As the dust settled, Ryu's eyes widened as he noticed something appearing in front of him. His jaw dropped, and he yelled, 54.5 billion. Well guys, if you liked the video, hit the like and subscribe button, and comment part 2 for the next part.